So let's start by looking at how cloud services work. As an example, let's say you've got one computer, and before you had more than one device, you would just be happy having those files on your computer that you needed. So you have files A, B, and C here. Then we started having more than one device. So say you had a laptop as well as a desktop Mac. Now the problem is if you wanted to have access to your files on the laptop, you would have to copy them over to the laptop. But that means every time you update a file you need to copy it. So you update the file A on your iMac, you need to remember to copy the new copy to the laptop Mac. And if you update file B on your laptop, you need to make sure you transfer that back to your desktop Mac. So this isn't really a great solution. And then you add more devices. So say you've got a phone and an iPad. How do you keep these all in sync? So enter the cloud. So what happens here with cloud services like iCloud is you've got files A, B, and C on your iMac. These automatically, without any effort from you, automatically go up to the server from Apple that has all the iCloud files. So files A, B, and C are now on iCloud. Then these are copied to all of your other devices. So by just creating files A, B, and C on your iMac, they automatically go to iCloud and automatically go to all your other devices as well. Now, when you change a file, let's say you're on your laptop Mac and you change file A, what happens is that change automatically goes up to iCloud and then is sent automatically to the other devices. You don't have to do anything to do this. All you know is you change the file on your MacBook and then you switch over to your iMac and notice that file A is the updated file, the one that has the changes you made on your MacBook. And the same thing would happen if you looked at the file on your iPhone or iPad. Now iCloud also allows you to save space. And the way it does this is it won't keep all of the data on some of your devices. So depending on your settings, you may find that you have all of the files and all of your data stored in iCloud. Like on the iMac shown here, all of the data and all of your files are stored in iCloud. They're always on the server. But your other devices may actually have some files in their entirety and other files are kind of just placeholders. Think of them like envelopes but without the papers inside the envelope. So you see the file there but the contents of the file aren't there. So if you need the file, it simply downloads it on demand. So in that case I needed file C. It said hold on a second and it downloaded the contents of file C. Now what happens if the connection is broken? So what happens if you don't have a connection, say, to your MacBook? Maybe you've turned off Wi-Fi or someplace where you can't get access to Wi-Fi. Well, then you update file C and that new updated version is only on the MacBook. It's not on the iMac, it's not on the iPhone, it's not on the iPad. Why? Because the MacBook never had a chance to send it to iCloud. So let's say you reconnect your MacBook to Wi-Fi. Then what will happen is the file then gets uploaded to iCloud and then gets sent to the other devices. Now the iMac here has settings so that it gets full copies of everything. So it automatically gets that file. So let's look at the settings for iCloud Drive in Ventura. If you go to System Settings, you'll find it under your Apple ID and then go to iCloud. And then you'll find a few settings in here. Now I expect this to change over the lifetime of Ventura during updates because right now Optimize Mac Storage, which pertains to iCloud Drive, is here and iCloud Drive options are here. I think they may move to be in the same location in the future, but for now this is where you'll find them. So to have iCloud Drive turned on, you simply have this switch turned on. When you do that, you should see in the Finder, in the sidebar here, iCloud. If you don't see it, you can go to Finder and then Settings and then Sidebar and then make sure you have iCloud Drive switched on here. Under that you'll see iCloud Drive, and this is the main level of iCloud Drive. This is the top level. Kind of like the Mac hard drive level but for iCloud Drive. And you see all the folders in here. A lot of these folders are created by different apps that will create kind of a home folder for some of their files and
extra parts that they want to store on iCloud Drive. You don't need to worry about those in particular, but you can create your own folders here and use them as you like. Now notice here back in Settings, if you go to Options, you have the option to have your Desktop and Documents folders stored in iCloud Drive rather than stored in the Home folder, which is just local to your Mac. When you turn this on, and you probably should have it turned on, then all of the files in those two folders will be on iCloud Drive. They'll be available here on your Mac, but also in any other Macs you have, and you can access them in the Files app on an iPad or an iPhone as well. Anything logged into the same Apple ID. So for instance, here's Documents, and any of the files that are in here would be then available across all those devices, but also stored on Apple servers, which acts kind of like a backup. It's not a true backup like Time Machine, but it does have the effect that if, say, you're using a MacBook and your MacBook is stolen, you get a new one, log into iCloud, and all of your files will still be there. They were stored on Apple servers, so losing that one machine didn't really take away those files. Now note that when a file is stored in iCloud, you should think of it as one location stored in the cloud in iCloud Drive, and you can access that here on this Mac, perhaps on another Mac, perhaps on an iPhone and an iPad as well. It's one location. So if you were to go and change a document, it would change that one document in that one location, and you would see that same document across all your devices. Now practically what happens is files are cached locally on your Mac, so that not every time that you open a file does it need to download from iCloud. Your most recently used files should be available cached here locally. Some will not. So if we look in a folder like this, we can see a file here, and you can see this icon here. That means that this file is available to you. It's in iCloud Drive, and you could just open it like normal, but it doesn't happen to be cached at the moment. So if I were to double click on it to open, it will download and then open. And you saw there was very little difference. Now it's cached locally, and I can double click, and maybe it's a little bit faster. Depends on the size of the file. So it's all automatic. Whether a file is cached locally depends on how big it is, how recently you accessed it. So if you want to manually select a file or group of files and say control click on it, you can download now, and it will download that file. So there's a local copy cached, and of course it will remain there for some time. If, say, weeks or months later you still haven't used that file and you're running out of space in your drive, you may find that that file is once again there with the little cloud icon saying that it's no longer cached locally and needs to be downloaded again before opening it. You can also control click and remove download. So if you know you're not going to need a file for a while and it's very large, you can get back that space on your drive that way. But typically you don't micromanage it like that. You just use these files as normal and don't worry too much whether they're cached locally or not. Now on the other hand, if you go here into Settings and then you look at Optimize Mac Storage and you turn that off, turning it off will have the effect of caching all files locally. So it will download everything. So all of the files in iCloud Drive will be cached here on your Mac at all times. This will take a lot more space. One of the reasons people use iCloud Drive is they got too small of a drive on their Mac. Say it's a 512 gigabyte drive, but they have 1 terabyte worth of data. And they can't fit that on a drive half that size. So using the Optimize feature allows you to have a lot of files, 1 terabyte of files, but only some of those are cached locally at any given time. If you turn off Optimize Mac Storage and you have too many files and they can't all fit on your local drive, then it won't work. There's not enough room for those files in your local drive. Now here at the top of iCloud you have a storage chart that shows you how much space is being used, and it breaks it down by category. Again, these are not locations but categories. So the category of documents, it's not everything in your Documents folder. You may have documents in your Desktop folder and other folders you created in iCloud Drive. You can also go to Manage, and Manage will take a deep dive down into that storage. You also can click here, and this is where you can add storage. So normally you would see a list of prices and storage amounts. Typically you would see something like 99 cents in the United States will get you 50 gigabytes of storage as opposed to the free 5 gigabytes. So for $1 a month you can have 10 times the amount of storage. in general it's a good idea if you're using iCloud Drive to store all of your files in your Documents folder and keep subfolders under there to organize things as you want. You can create other folders here at the top level of iCloud Drive as you like, but Documents folder is kind of like the best practice for things. In addition, you may still want to store many things outside of the Documents folder. For instance, you definitely want to keep, say, your iMovie projects in your Movies folder in your Home folder, not in iCloud Drive, because those tend to be very large files that take up a lot of space. And you can always go to your Home folder and create your own folders here to store large files that maybe you don't want to keep in iCloud Drive. Now another thing you can do with iCloud Drive is you can get to your files on the web. If you go to iCloud.com and log on with your Apple ID, then you can go to iCloud Drive and you can browse through your files in a Finder-like interface here inside a web browser. And this will work on any computer with a modern web browser. So you can go down into your Documents folder, for instance, and get access to files. You can even view files in web-based versions of apps like Pages, Numbers, and Keynote. So here is a Numbers document and I will open it and you can see it's going to open inside of a web browser. So I'm still in Safari here and yet I'm in a web-based version of Numbers. And I can edit this file using the web-based version of iCloud rather than the Numbers app on my Mac. And one more advantage to having files in iCloud Drive is you can use all the sharing features. If you want to share a file or collaborate with somebody, that's a feature of iCloud. So the file must be stored in iCloud Drive to use those features. If you store them locally in your Home folder somewhere, then you can't do a shared file or collaborate on a document, say in Pages, Numbers, or Keynote. Those have to be stored in iCloud Drive.